AP Statistics students, Mr. McNichols and I wanted to send out our Chapter 4, a few hints, tips, reminders, and resources video to you. Before we begin, though, you can pause the screen. This is the information of your AP exam. And you see you need to sign in at 1:30 on Friday, May 22nd at 2 p.m. And you have these links on the Google slide for the College Board site and our Schoology page. We're going to get right into the video, though. Chapter 4, there's a lot of information. This video is only going to cover the principles of experimental design, really because there's some good why questions there. How to describe stratified versus clustered again, and scope of inference, which is really interesting because that was yesterday on the news dealing with COVID. What's not in this video, but is highlighted in the resources, are types of sampling methods and experimental design. So let's start off with the principles of experimental design. Again, this is the video. Pause it. Read what the definitions are for control, random assignment, replication. Read them and get comfortable with them. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to draw it out so you can understand. We have subjects that we're going to perform an experiment on, and we're going to get them. We're going to put them in either group 1 or we're going to put them into treatment 1. And I'm going to put the other part into group 2, or I'm going to put them into treatment 2. Now I'm going to stop right there because right away, that is the control aspect of the principle for experimental design. I mean, look at the definition. You want to use a comparative design to ensure the only systematic difference is the treatment administered. So right here, the treatments administered is our controlling aspect. And I'm going to stop also because I can't just choose what group they go into. I have to randomly assign them. And I have to describe how they're randomly assigned. But there's your random assignment. It helps create roughly equivalent groups, and it balances the effects of lurking variables. It doesn't eliminate them, it balances them on it. Well, that's not all you would do when you're describing experimental design, you're drawing one out. You're also going to say, well, how many subjects do you have in group 1? And how many subjects do you have in group 2 or treatment 1, treatment 2? Well, that's replication. You want to make sure you use enough experimental units so that any differences in the effects of the treatment can be distinguished from chance between the groups. So we have our replication there. Now, what's the purpose of this? Well, the purpose of having these 3 principles of experimental design is because all 3 allow us to compare, contact. It allows us to compare. That's the principles of experimental design for it. So there's your 3 principles, and this is visually why they're used. If you can sketch it, they're hidden inside that sketch. The next is how to describe. I'm not going to go through this entire slide. We've done these a lot on it. I'll even post some extra things in the Schoology page. I have some pictures from our boards that we've done in the classroom. But pause it and read if you're doing a table of random digits or you're doing slips of paper, what you need to write down for them. Make sure you're doing the correspondence in both forms. Is where are they being assigned? That's something that can be left off by some students. What we have here are some previous AP exam questions. This one's from 2011. I'm not going to read the question. I want you to see the 3 parts. There's a big paragraph, but there's really no calculations. It's all writing. I mean, the first one's asking you, is this an experiment or observational study? So what I did here is you're going to do a lot of pausing when watching this video. Read their rubric. And I even wrote down if they got an E or a P in this case on these. See what they're missing. Why did this student down here at the bottom, why did they get a P? What didn't they say that the other ones did on why it's an experiment or observational study? So get used to the pause of the videos. Even for part B, pause. Read the question. Read their rubric and figure out, well, why did this person get an I? Well, there was no chance for a P in this case. So read their rubric and read how they're going to grade. You need to get comfortable with how they're grading. What are they looking for? And clear and concise is what they're looking for. And then part C, this one you can notice I like this rubric because E is clear and concise. I mean, look at that. It just flat out tells you, here's what needs to be said, or here's what needs to be said. But notice for partial, there's a lot more things that could be said. So you have to be clear and concise on it. And one thing I found really interesting about this one is, again, pause the video, read their responses, and see what they said to this question on it. But I found interesting is this person got a P, and I could see right away, hey, there are confounding variables. Man, look at me. I am bragging statistically here. I am trying to throw a vocab word out there to sound like I know what I'm doing. Don't brag statistically. This student didn't say what was confounding. They didn't give an example of what was confounding. And notice, it describes the potential confounding. Don't just throw the word out there. Don't brag statistically. Describe on it. And then you have this other one. This one's from 2006. Same idea. There are 4 parts here, and they did go through response variable. They go through treatments. They go through experimental units. Was randomization used properly? And look, I see the word replication. I see the word confounding variable. These are very good questions for understanding what to write. So I have here no student sample responses, just the scoring rubric so you can understand what they're looking for. So again, pause the video, read the question, see how they want you to respond for it. For part B, pause the video, read the question. Was randomization used properly? See what would get you a P. And you can even be warned, hey, if they throw this out there, that's going to drop them down to a P or an I. Read how they're going to grade your writing. Even for this one on it, pause, read. Pause for part D, read how they're going to score. The next part of the video looks at clustered versus stratified. We did this in the free response extended questions where there was those 6 parts on it. You have the idea of clustered, you have the idea of a stratified. Pause, read the definitions. I'm going to give you a visual. What cluster does is cluster breaks them into similar groups on it. You want the groups to be almost identical on them. You want to have mirror the characteristics of the population for it. Think of like our house system at New Albany High School. They're different within, but same between. So there's the colored buttons. Each cluster has roughly the same types of buttons in them. But a stratified random sample, think of it like grade levels. And look at the buttons. They are same within, but different between. Here's all my red buttons. Here's all the black buttons. Here's all the green buttons. The groups are broken. They have the same characteristics within them, but they are different between them on it. So you can pause and read the definitions for those. Now, yesterday, you have May 13th on the news was these thousands volunteer for the vaccine study. And notice, look at their picture. You have the vaccine on the left, you have the placebo on the right. It's a very good idea of how are they treatment. There's treatment 1, they get the vaccine. Here's treatment 2, they get the placebo. But what's really interesting is our scope of inference in chapter 4 is take a look at this. These were volunteers on it. Thousands volunteer for a vaccine study. So were individuals randomly selected? No. No, they were not. So we are right here in our scope of inference. They were not randomly selected. So if I look at what's the best thing that these researchers can do when they're doing this vaccine study, and the best thing that they can do is they need to randomly assign them. Because if they randomly assign them, then they can, if I take a look at the intersection of this, then they can conclude about cause and effect. But no matter what, they cannot make inference about the population because these individuals were not randomly selected on it. If the individuals were randomly selected, if the individuals were randomly assigned, then that's the best case scenario. We can do everything. We can make inference about population and we can make inference about slope. This is really cool from a statistics teacher standpoint. Man, it's on the news right now, the stuff that you're learning. Is people volunteered. So what does that mean? Well, that means they were not randomly selected. Boy, you better randomly assign them, because if you don't, that's the worst case there in that lower right-hand side. So it was really interesting to see it in the news on it. Please pay attention. Be an informed citizen about this stuff. This is why we love statistics for it. Here are the resources on it, and we're going to take a look at them so I can kind of show they are linked on the Google Slides presentation. We have about a little bit under an 8-minute video going over sampling and experimental designs. This is from AP, the College Board, going over sampling and experiments for it. So they go over some good problems. This is a midterm review that deals with experimental design from another AP stats teacher. And the same thing, this is a video that goes over blocking and matched pairs, which was not touched on in our video. Here is your database. This is an awesome tool. I want to show you guys in this video really how to use it. And if I really struggle with block design, go right here, read the topics. I'm going to look at the 2007 Form B test. I'm looking at question 3. If I really struggle with the idea of, well, what's important about randomization? What's the purpose behind it? I'm going to go to the 2001 test and I'm going to look at question 4. Or, man, double blind on it. I can go around and look for where is my double blind free response problems for them. So use these as a guide to find what topic you struggle with, get a question, and look at how you should solve that question. As always, if you have any questions, contact Mr. McNichols or I in our office hours or by email. We hope you are doing well and take care.